They humiliated him when he was in school. 15 years later, the new principal arrived and changed everything. The hall at Lincoln Elementary School fell into absolute silence when the new principal entered for the first time in 15 years. The veteran teacher, Mrs. Thompson, paled as she recognized that face, now confident and successful, which once belonged to the most humiliated boy in that institution. It was then that Michael Williams, 32 years old, walked down the same hallway where he had so often run to escape the taunts. His steady footsteps echoed across the worn concrete floor he knew so well, but now he wore a well-tailored suit instead of the patched-up uniform from years past. His former classmate, now the vice principal, Brandon Cooper, felt his legs tremble as he recognized his old victim from the past. During his introduction to the staff, Michael fixed his gaze on a bespectacled boy sitting alone in the corner of the cafeteria, isolated and hunched over. The boy ate by himself while other students whispered and pointed in his direction. It was as if Michael was seeing his younger self reflected in that child of about 12. "Good morning, everyone," Michael said, his calm voice filling the room. "I'm Michael Williams, the new principal of this school. I'm very happy to be here." Mrs. Thompson, who had taught English for over 30 years, recognized that voice immediately. It was the same one that had once begged her for help to stop the daily humiliation he endured. Her hands trembled slightly as she held her coffee cup. Brandon tried to maintain his composure, but his mind flashed back 15 years. He remembered clearly the skinny, timid boy who had been his favorite target in high school. The pranks he orchestrated during recess, always zeroing in on Michael's weak spot, his humble background and worn-out clothes. "Could you tell us a bit about your experience?" Brandon asked, trying to sound professional. Michael smiled calmly, but his eyes carried an intensity that didn't go unnoticed. "Of course. I graduated in education from the University of Michigan, earned a master's in educational leadership, and spent the last 8 years working in schools across Boston. This school holds a very special meaning for me." Michael's first act as principal was to cancel the traditional talent showcase, an event where popular students once shone while others were publicly ridiculed. Brandon protested vehemently during the faculty meeting. "Principal, with all due respect, this event is a decades-old tradition that brings the school community together," Brandon argued. "Parents look forward to it all year." "I understand your concern, Brandon, but I believe we can create something more inclusive," Michael replied calmly. "An event where every student can participate based on their unique talents." Dear listener, if you're enjoying this story, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. Mrs. Sullivan, president of the Parent-Teacher Association and mother of one of the school's most popular students, wasted no time appearing in the principal's office. She was an elegant woman, always dressed in expensive clothes, who held significant influence over school decisions. "Principal Williams, I need to speak with you about these changes," she said, sitting in the chair across from his desk. "My son Tyler has always participated in the talent showcase. It's an important opportunity for him." Michael studied her carefully. Mrs. Sullivan didn't remember him, but he remembered her perfectly, picking up her son years ago, always looking down on the less privileged students. "Mrs. Sullivan, the goal is to create opportunities for all students, not just a select few," Michael explained. "Your son will still have opportunities to shine, but in a fairer environment." "Fairer?" Jennifer repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Principal, with all due respect, but some students simply aren't on the same level as others. That's just the reality." Those words hit Michael like a punch to the gut. It was exactly that kind of thinking that had allowed years of humiliation during his youth. He remembered the times Jennifer had seen her son Tyler mocking him and simply pretended not to notice. Meanwhile, the boy with glasses Michael had noticed was named Ethan Parker. The son of Mrs. Jenkins, the school custodian, Ethan endured daily taunts from his classmates. His simple clothes and thick-framed glasses made him an easy target for childish cruelty. Michael decided to observe the student's behavior more closely during recess. What he saw brought back painful memories. Ethan sat alone under the maple tree in the yard, eating his lunch while groups of boys passed by, making cruel remarks. "Look at Four Eyes over there," said Tyler Sullivan, Jennifer's son, to his friends. Bet he can't even play ball right. My mom said his mom cleans the school, another boy chimed in. That's why he gets to go here for free. Ethan pretended not to hear, but Michael could see how each word hurt him. It was a scene he knew all too well. During an education meeting, Michael found his old notebook hidden in an old drawer in the principal's office. The yellowed pages revealed talented drawings and deep poems, but they were torn and scribbled over with cruel insults written by other students. Michael is a loser. No one likes you. Go back to the trash where you came from. The words still stung, even after all these years. Michael shut the notebook tightly, feeling determination rise in his chest. He introduced new programs that valued different kinds of intelligence and skills. He created workshops for art, literature, chess, and even gardening. The idea was for every student to find their place and develop their natural talents. The resistance came immediately. Some of the more traditional teachers questioned his methods. "Principal, isn't this nonsense?" asked Mr. Peterson, who had taught physical education for over 20 years. "School is for serious subjects, not playing around with these things." "Mr. Peterson, I respect your experience, but I believe education goes beyond traditional subjects," Michael replied patiently. "We need to prepare our students for life, not just tests." Brandon began spreading rumors among the staff about the new principal's incompetence. In hallway conversations, he criticized the radical changes Michael was implementing. "Did you see he canceled the talent showcase and now wants us to waste time on gardening workshops?" he complained to his colleagues. "This won't work. The school will turn into chaos." The pressure grew when some members of the school board started questioning Michael's decisions. Jennifer Sullivan had organized an informal meeting with other influential parents to discuss the changes. Michael discovered that Ethan was suffering the same humiliations he had endured, many of them carried out by Tyler, Jennifer's own son. During a discreet observation at recess, Michael witnessed a scene that forced him to act. Tyler and his friends had cornered Ethan near the bathrooms. The boy tried to walk past, but they blocked his path, shoving him back and forth. "Where you going, Four Eyes?" Tyler taunted. "Gonna cry to your mom while she's cleaning the bathroom?" Ethan kept his head down, trying not to react, but Michael could see tears forming behind his fogged-up glasses. "Boys, come here," Michael said firmly, but not aggressively as he approached. "Ethan, I need to speak with you." The boys quickly scattered, leaving Ethan alone. Michael moved toward the boy carefully. "Ethan, are you okay?" The boy nervously wiped his glasses and nodded, but he couldn't hide the tremor in his voice. "Yes, Principal Williams. You know you can talk to me anytime you need to, right?" Ethan looked at Michael in surprise. He wasn't used to adults at school showing genuine concern for him. That afternoon, Michael called Tyler into his office for a private conversation. The boy walked in with a defiant air, clearly influenced by his mother's attitude. "Tyler, we need to talk about how you've been treating some of your classmates," Michael began. "I don't know what you're talking about," Tyler replied dismissively. "I didn't do anything wrong. I saw you and your friends cornering Ethan during recess today. That's bullying, Tyler." "Ethan's weird. Nobody likes him anyway," Tyler said with the casual cruelty of children. "My mom says everyone has their place in school." Michael felt his blood boil at those words, but he kept his composure. It was important to show the boy there was another way to handle conflict. "Tyler, everyone deserves respect, no matter where they come from or what they look like. I want you to think about how you'd feel if someone treated you that way." Mrs. Thompson sought out Michael at the end of the day. The veteran teacher had tears in her eyes and carried a cardboard box. "Principal Williams, I need to speak with you about something very important," she said, closing the office door. "Of course, Mrs. Thompson. What's wrong?" "I remember you, young man," she confessed, her voice trembling. "I remember what they did to you at this school 15 years ago." Michael felt a lump in his throat. Mrs. Thompson had been one of the few who tried to help him during those difficult years. "I tried to step in many times, but the previous administration wouldn't back me up," she continued. "I kept some things over the years, hoping they might make a difference someday." She opened the box, revealing several old videotapes and some documents. "Back then, the school used to film certain events. These tapes show what they did to you and other students. I kept them as proof." Michael picked up one of the tapes with shaking hands. He knew those images contained moments he'd rather forget, but they could also be crucial for the changes he wanted to make. "Why did you keep all this?" "Because I knew the truth would have to come out one day," Mrs. Thompson replied. "And when I heard you were our new principal, I knew the time had come." Together, they began planning a groundbreaking anti-bullying program for the school. Michael wanted more than just rules. He wanted a deep cultural shift. The conflict escalated when Brandon discovered the alliance between Michael and Mrs. Thompson. During a staff meeting, he tried to discredit the teacher. "Mrs. Thompson is letting her emotions cloud her judgment," Brandon told the other teachers. "She's making up stories from the past to justify these unnecessary changes." "Brandon, you were here 15 years ago," Mrs. Thompson replied firmly. "You know very well I'm not making anything up." The tension in the room was palpable. Other teachers began taking sides, dividing the staff. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. The popular students, led by Tyler, escalated their attacks on Ethan. They had noticed that Michael showed a special interest in the boy with glasses, and it bothered them. During recess, they spread nasty rumors about Ethan and his family. "Ethan's only here because his mom cleans the school," Tyler whispered to a group of classmates. "Bet he can't even read properly." Ethan started skipping class more often. His mother, Mrs. Jenkins, went to Michael, worried about her son's behavior. "Principal Williams, my Ethan doesn't want to come to school anymore," she said, dabbing her tears with a tissue. "He says he has a stomachache every morning, but I know it's something else." Michael knew that situation all too well. He had used the same excuse countless times as a child. "Mrs. Jenkins, you don't need to worry. I'll talk to Ethan, and we'll solve this together." "You've been so kind to us, Principal. Ever since you arrived, I feel like things can get better." Michael was pressured by the school board to explain the changes he was implementing. The board president, Dr. Richard Thompson, an influential lawyer in town, called an emergency meeting. "Principal Williams, some parents are concerned about the direction the school is taking," Dr. Thompson said. "They're questioning whether these changes are really necessary." "Dr. Thompson, these changes aim to create a more inclusive and productive environment for all students," Michael explained. "I believe quality education should be accessible to everyone, regardless of their background. But canceling school traditions and implementing these new programs, isn't it affecting the teaching of core subjects?" Michael took a deep breath. He knew he had to be strategic in his response. On the contrary, the data shows that students in more welcoming environments perform better academically. I can provide research to back that up. One rainy afternoon, Michael decided to watch the tapes Mrs. Thompson had kept. Alone in his office, he inserted one into the school's old VCR. The images on the small screen transported him 15 years back in time. There he was, 16 years old, skinny and shy, being shoved through the school halls. Brandon appeared clearly in the footage, leading a group of bullies who made his life hell. One scene in particular made him pause the video. It was during a school event where he had volunteered to read a poem he'd written. The moment he stepped onto the makeshift stage in the courtyard, some students started booing and throwing crumpled paper. "Nobody wants to hear that, Michael," Brandon's younger voice shouted in the recording. "Get back to your seat." The 16-year-old Michael had stepped down, humiliated, while teachers pretended not to see what was happening. The only person who tried to help was Mrs. Thompson, who appeared in the frame trying to calm things down. Michael turned off the video and rested his head in his hands. Those images were painful, but they also strengthened his resolve. He wouldn't let Ethan go through what he had endured. The next day, Michael implemented a new rule. Every conflict between students would be resolved through mediation, not punishment. He created a group of student mediators, trained to help settle disagreements peacefully. The backlash was immediate. Some parents argued that this approach was too soft and that unruly students needed strict discipline. Jennifer Sullivan organized a secret meeting at her home with other influential parents. Their goal was to pressure the school board to fire Michael. "This principal is turning our school into a place where anyone can do whatever they want," she argued to the group. "My Tyler told me he now has to join talking circles instead of being punished when he gets into trouble. That's true, agreed another parent. This method won't teach discipline to the kids. Michael found out about the meeting through Mrs. Thompson, who had overheard some mothers' comments during student pickup. Principal, they're organizing against you, she warned. You need to prepare. That week, something unexpected happened. Ethan approached Michael during recess. Principal Williams, can I talk to you? Of course, Ethan. Come in. Have a seat. The boy settled into the chair, nervously adjusting his glasses. I wanted to thank you for what you're doing at the school, Ethan said, his voice quiet but firm. I know you're trying to help kids like me. Michael felt a deep emotion hearing those words. Ethan, you don't have to thank me. It's my job to make sure every student feels safe and respected here. I know you understand how I feel, Ethan continued, showing surprising maturity for his age. Sometimes I see in your eyes that you've been through it too. Michael was silent for a moment, struck by the boy's insight. Ethan, you're very observant. It's true, I went to this school and faced situations like yours. What did you do to get through it? I focused on my studies and never stopped believing things could get better, and most importantly, I learned that where we come from doesn't define where we're going. During the disciplinary meeting called to discuss bullying cases at the school, Michael made a brave decision. He chose to reveal his identity as a former student. The room was packed. School board members, parents, teachers, and student representatives were all present. Brandon sat in the front row, looking confident the meeting would criticize Michael's policies. Parents, teachers, and board members, Michael began, his steady voice filling the room. Before we discuss the school's anti-bullying policies, I'd like to share something personal with you. Silence fell. Michael took a deep breath and continued. 15 years ago, I was a student at this very school, and during those years I was constantly humiliated and bullied in ways that deeply scarred my adolescence. A murmur spread through the room. Mrs. Thompson smiled faintly, proud of Michael's courage. I know exactly what it's like to come to school every day afraid of being mocked. I know what it's like to eat lunch alone while others laugh at how you look or where you come from. I know what it's like to dream of escaping a place that should be about learning and growing. Jennifer Sullivan looked visibly uncomfortable. She began vaguely remembering the skinny boy her son and his friends used to pick on. Michael continued his speech, sharing some of the emotional scars from those years. He spoke about how the school's lack of support prolonged his suffering and nearly made him drop out. When it was his turn to speak, Brandon tried to downplay the issue. Principal Williams, with all due respect, but teenagers have always teased each other, he said, sweating. It's part of growing up. We can't turn every interaction between students into a bullying case. Brandon. Michael looked straight at him. Do you remember these jokes you're talking about? The vice principal stammered, clearly nervous at the direct question. Well, times were different. Different times when humiliating the weak was considered acceptable? Michael asked calmly. When pretending not to see a child suffering was normal? Mrs. Barbara Miller, mother of a 6th grade student, raised her hand to speak. Principal Michael, my daughter told me about the changes at the school. She said the quieter students are now participating more in activities. Is that true? Yes, Mrs. Miller. When we create an environment where everyone feels safe to express their opinions and talents, we see overall growth in student engagement, he replied. Dr. Richard Thompson, the board president, asked pointedly, Principal Williams, do you believe your personal experience is overly influencing your professional decisions? Michael had expected this question. Dr. Thompson, my experience gave me a unique perspective on the harm bullying can cause. But every policy I've implemented is based on scientific research and globally recognized best practices in education. Jennifer Sullivan finally spoke up, visibly uncomfortable. Principal, perhaps some situations were mishandled in the past, but that doesn't mean we should change the entire dynamic of the school. Mrs. Sullivan, Michael looked directly at her. Do you remember the boy your son Tyler and others used to harass 15 years ago? The silence that followed was deafening. Jennifer paled as she understood the implication. She began but couldn't finish. "That boy was me," Michael said simply. "And today I stand here as principal of this school, determined to ensure no child goes through what I did." The revelation had a profound impact. Some parents lowered their heads in shame. Others seemed genuinely surprised and moved by Michael's story. Ethan Parker, attending the meeting as a student representative, felt a courage he'd never known before. Inspired by Michael's honesty, he asked to speak. "Can I say something?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Michael nodded with an encouraging smile. "My name is Ethan Parker, and I'm one of the students Principal Williams is talking about," the boy began, nervously removing his glasses to clean them. "Every day, I come to school afraid of being humiliated. Every day I eat alone while others make jokes about my family." His mother, Mrs. Jenkins, who was present, began to cry silently as she realized the extent of her son's suffering. "But since Principal Williams arrived for the first time, someone at school treats me like I matter," Ethan continued, his voice growing stronger. "He created workshops where I can show my drawing skills. He made discussion groups where my opinion counts." The boy's testimony moved even the most skeptical. Mrs. Miller wiped away a tear, remembering how her own daughter had mentioned the positive changes at school. Tyler Sullivan, also present, grew visibly uneasy listening to Ethan. For the first time, he understood the real impact of his actions. Other students began asking to share their experiences. A 7th grade girl spoke about no longer being excluded from group projects after the new policies. An 8th grade boy talked about how chess club helped him make new friends. Brandon Cooper, cornered by the revelations, made a final attempt to discredit Michael. "Board members, I have information that questions Principal Williams' qualifications," he said, pulling papers from a folder. "I've found inconsistencies in his resume that warrant investigation." Michael remained calm, but knew this accusation could be dangerous if not properly addressed. "Brandon, I'd like you to specify which inconsistencies you found," Michael replied evenly. "There are gaps in your professional background that weren't properly explained during the selection process," insisted Brandon. "Dr. Richard Thompson called for a break in the meeting so the accusations could be investigated." Michael agreed, confident in his qualifications. During the 3-day investigation, it was discovered that not only were Michael's qualifications impeccable, but he had earned each one through hard work and dedication. His references from previous jobs were outstanding. But the investigation revealed something even more surprising. Old school documents showed that Brandon had sabotaged Michael's previous attempts to return to town as a substitute teacher years earlier. There was evidence that Brandon had intercepted correspondence and negatively influenced other professional opportunities for Michael. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us as we're just starting out. Now continuing, when the meeting resumed, Dr. Richard presented the investigation's findings. "The board has concluded that not only are Principal Michael's qualifications beyond reproach, but we also found evidence of attempts to sabotage his career by employees of this institution." Brandon paled as he realized his past actions had been uncovered. "Furthermore," Dr. Richard continued, "we found documents proving a pattern of systematic harassment that lasted years." The revelation caused widespread discomfort. Jennifer Sullivan seemed genuinely shocked to learn the extent of the harassment Michael had endured. The transformation at the school began to accelerate when Tyler Sullivan, faced with the consequences of his actions and pressured by his own mother after the revelations, made a bold decision. During recess, he approached Ethan, who was sitting alone under the mango tree. "Ethan," Tyler said, his voice hesitant, "can I sit here?" Ethan looked at him suspiciously, afraid it might be another trap to humiliate him. "I want to apologize," Tyler continued, sitting on the ground beside Ethan, "for what I did to you, for the things I said." Ethan stayed silent, processing words he never expected to hear. "My mom made me realize what I was doing was wrong, that Principal Michael went through the same things because of people like me." "Why did you do that to me?" Ethan asked, his voice heavy with genuine hurt. Tyler lowered his head, ashamed. Because I thought it was cool, because the others laughed, because my dad always told me some kids were different from us. Different how? You know, poor, with families who work at the school. He said it was important to keep the differences clear. Ethan absorbed those words, understanding for the first time the root of the prejudice he'd faced. But now I get that it's wrong, Tyler continued. Principal Michael showed us that where we come from doesn't matter. What matters is who we are. That afternoon, Tyler did something that surprised the whole school. During break, he stood in the courtyard and called for everyone's attention. "Guys, I need to say something important," he shouted, bringing conversations to a stop. "I want to apologize to Ethan and to other students I treated badly. What I did was wrong, and I promise I'll change." The courtyard fell completely silent. No one expected Tyler, one of the most popular kids, to apologize publicly. Ethan, who was there, felt tears of relief in his eyes. For the first time in years, they weren't tears of sadness. Tyler's courage inspired other students. In the following days, other students who had been involved in bullying situations began to reflect on their behavior. Michael observed these changes with satisfaction, but knew the work was just beginning. He implemented weekly dialogue circles where students could discuss conflicts and find solutions together. Mrs. Jenkins approached Michael one afternoon, tears of gratitude in her eyes. "Principal Williams, I don't know how to thank you," she said. "My Ethan came home yesterday saying he made a new friend. Tyler Sullivan invited him to play soccer. Mrs. Jenkins, this is the result of Ethan's own courage and the capacity for change children have when given proper guidance." "You saved my son," she insisted. "He was losing his desire to study, to dream. Now he wants to be a principal like you when he grows up." Michael felt deep emotion hearing those words. This was exactly why he had returned to this school. Mrs. Thompson led a movement for educational renewal among the teachers. She organized workshops on inclusion and teaching methods that valued different types of intelligence. "Colleagues, we must accept that education has changed," she said during a faculty meeting. "We can't keep teaching like we did 20 years ago." Mr. Peterson, initially resistant to change, began incorporating cooperative elements into his physical education classes. "Mrs. Thompson is right," he admitted. "I've noticed the students are more united after these dialogue circles. Even sports have become more fun." Younger teachers embraced the changes enthusiastically, creating interdisciplinary projects involving art, literature, and hands-on activities. Jennifer Sullivan underwent a profound personal transformation after the revelations from the meeting. She sought Michael for a private conversation. "Principal Williams, I need to apologize," she said, clearly emotional. "I vaguely remember you as a student here. I remember seeing situations and doing nothing." "Mrs. Sullivan, what matters is that now we all have the chance to do things differently. I want to restructure the Parents Association," she continued. "I want it to support all students equally, not just those from wealthier families. That would be a valuable contribution to the school community." Jennifer kept her promise. The Parents Association was restructured to include representatives from all social classes in the school. They created a support fund for students in need and organized events celebrating the community's cultural diversity. The school board, impressed by the positive results of the changes Michael had implemented, gave him full support to expand his programs. "Principal Williams," Dr. Thompson said during a meeting, "absenteeism has dropped significantly. Grades have improved and we've had 0 cases of physical aggression among students in the last 2 months. These are natural consequences when students feel valued and respected," Michael replied. "A positive school environment yields positive results." Michael decided to organize an inclusive talent fair to replace the old talent showcase. The event would be structured so every student could participate based on their unique abilities. Ethan signed up to present his drawings. Tyler decided to participate with a presentation on how soccer can teach teamwork. Other students chose music, poetry, gardening, and even cooking. Brandon, confronted with his past and present, went through a painful but necessary process of reflection. He sought Michael for a conversation they both knew was inevitable. "Michael," he said, dropping the formal title, "I need to apologize." Michael looked at him intently, waiting to see if the change was genuine. "I remember everything I did to you 15 years ago, and I know I tried to sabotage your career when you tried to come back as a teacher. Why did you do that, Brandon?" "Because I was afraid," he admitted, tears in his eyes. "Afraid you'd return successful and expose who I really was. Afraid to face my own past. And now? Now I understand my fears turned me into someone I never wanted to be. I want a chance to make things right, Michael. I want to learn how to be a better person." Michael considered Brandon's words carefully. He saw sincerity in his eyes, but also knew real change takes time. Change. "Brandon, I believe people can change, but change requires actions, not just words. What can I do to prove I'm serious?" "Start by helping implement the anti-bullying programs. Use your influence to support the students who need it most. Show through your actions that you've truly changed." Brandon agreed, and in the following months he became one of the strongest advocates for the school's inclusive policies. His transformation surprised many, but served as proof that it's never too late to change. The Inclusive Talent Fair was an extraordinary success. The schoolyard was transformed into different spaces where every student could showcase their talents. Ethan set up an exhibit of his drawings near the main entrance. His work featured detailed urban landscapes and expressive portraits that impressed visitors and classmates alike. "Ethan, these drawings are amazing," Tyler said sincerely. "You have real talent." "Thanks, Tyler. You played really well in the soccer demonstration too." The ease of their conversation symbolized the transformation that had taken place at the school. Mrs. Jenkins, who had been invited to assist in one of the art workshops, watched her son with pride. "I never imagined I'd see my Ethan so confident," she told Michael. "Ethan always had this potential, Mrs. Jenkins. He just needed the right environment to flourish." During the fair, the most emotional moment of the entire transformation unfolded. Michael organized a special exhibit in the school's main hall. On one side, he displayed the work he had hidden as a boy, drawings, poems, and essays that had been mocked 15 years earlier. On the other side, he showcased the current creations of Ethan and other students who had discovered their talents through the new programs. "This exhibit represents a bridge between the past and present," Michael announced to the visitors. "It shows that talent has always been here. It just needed to be recognized and valued." Jennifer Sullivan paused in front of Michael's old work, studying every detail. "These drawings and poems are truly talented," she said to Mrs. Thompson. "How did we not see it back then?" "Because we weren't looking," the veteran teacher replied. "We only saw what we wanted to see." The fair's highlight came when Ethan and Michael were invited to paint a mural together on the schoolyard's main wall. The painting would represent the school's transformation and serve as a lasting symbol of its new values. As they painted side by side, Michael reflected on the journey that had brought them there. "Ethan, do you know your courage inspired all this change?" "How so, Principal Michael?" "When I saw you going through the same things I did, I realized I couldn't stay silent. You gave me the strength to fight for a better school." Ethan smiled, focused on painting a leafy tree on the mural. "You taught me that our past doesn't define our future," the boy said. "Now I believe I can be anything I want when I grow up." The closing ceremony of the fair was marked by heartfelt speeches. Each person who spoke shared how the changes at the school had impacted their lives. Mrs. Thompson, nearing retirement, delivered a speech that deeply moved everyone present. "In over 30 years of teaching, I've never seen such a profound and positive transformation in a school," she said. "This school has proven that true education goes far beyond teaching content. Education is about shaping better human beings." Tyler Sullivan, who had become one of the strongest advocates for the inclusion programs, spoke about his own transformation. "I learned that being truly popular isn't about putting others down," he said. "It's about using our influence to help those in need. It's about creating an environment where everyone can shine." Brandon Cooper, who had worked tirelessly to redeem himself, gave a speech about second chances and the importance of forgiveness. "This school taught me it's never too late to change," he said, visibly moved. "Our worst past actions don't have to define who we are today." Ethan Parker was the last to speak, and his words perfectly captured the spirit of the transformation. A year ago, I came to this school every day afraid. Now I arrive excited to learn new things and see my friends," he said, nervously adjusting his glasses. "Principal Michael showed me that everyone has value, everyone has talent. We just need people who believe in us." Michael Williams concluded the ceremony by announcing the creation of a special scholarship to be awarded annually. The Perseverance Scholarship would be for students who, like him and Ethan, had been underestimated but showed extraordinary potential. "This scholarship won't be based just on grades," Michael explained. "It's for students who've shown the courage to overcome adversity and the determination to pursue their dreams, no matter their background." The audience gave a standing ovation. It was a tangible way to ensure the school's transformation would continue impacting lives in the future. In the following months, Lincoln Elementary became a model for inclusive education in the region. Educators from nearby towns visited to learn about the programs Michael had implemented. Ethan flourished academically and socially. His artwork began earning recognition in regional contests, and he formed genuine friendships with classmates who had once ignored him. Tyler continued his transformation, becoming a positive leader among the students. He created a student group dedicated to welcoming and integrating new students, ensuring no one felt left out. Jennifer Sullivan completely reshaped her perspective on education and society. She became an active supporter of the school's social programs and worked to break down barriers between families from different backgrounds. Brandon proved through his actions that his change was genuine. He developed mentorship programs where older students helped younger ones, creating a support network within the school itself. Before retiring, Mrs. Thompson organized a professional development program for teachers to ensure the values of inclusion and respect would endure, even as staff changed. The school's transformation extended beyond its walls. Students' families began applying the principles of respect and inclusion in their own homes and communities. Michael partnered with local organizations to expand educational opportunities for students. Weekend workshops in arts, sports, and technology turned the school into a community learning center. The mural painted by Michael and Ethan became a symbol of the school. The image of a lush tree with deep roots and branches stretching in all directions represented how knowledge and respect can grow and spread when they find fertile ground. Years later, when Michael looked at that mural during his morning walks across the schoolyard, he remembered the journey that had begun with pain and transformed into hope. Ethan, now in high school, often visited Michael to share his future plans. The shy, bespectacled boy had grown into a confident young man who dreamed of studying architecture to build spaces where everyone feels welcome, as he put it. Tyler took a completely different path than the one laid out for him. Instead of simply inheriting the family business, he chose to study psychology to work with vulnerable children and teens. The school continued to evolve, always grounded in the principles that every child deserves respect, every child has value, and every child can reach their potential with the right support. Michael often received invitations to speak about his experience at other schools and universities. His message was always the same. Transformative education happens when we stop seeing just numbers and start seeing people. When we stop labeling children as troubled or promising and begin to understand that each one has their own way to shine. The story of Lincoln Elementary School's transformation proved that real change is possible when there's courage to face the past, determination to fight for the present, and enough hope to build a better future. The most important legacy Michael left wasn't just the policies implemented or the programs created, but the culture of empathy and inclusion that took deep root in the school. A culture where differences are celebrated, where vulnerability is seen as courage, and where every child knows they have a special place in the world. 15 years after enduring the worst humiliation of his life in those very hallways, Michael had turned his pain into purpose and his trauma into strength to change hundreds of lives. But perhaps the greatest miracle was discovering that by healing others' wounds, he had also healed his own. Lincoln Elementary was no longer just an educational institution. It had become a beacon of hope, proving that from the deepest pain can come the most beautiful transformations, and that a wounded heart can become the source of the greatest compassion. The end. And what did you think of this story of perseverance and transformation, dear listener? Do you believe Michael made the right decisions by returning to the school? Share in the comments which part moved you the most, and if you've ever experienced something similar. Don't forget to like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other inspiring stories like this one.